We're doing this series right now. We're kicking it off today just for a couple weeks called Stretch Marks, okay? And Jennifer, in her humor, said, hey, we should really do that series on Mother's Day, honey. And I said, no, I'm not doing that one on Mother's Day. And because we're doing this series because I believe it really is a great definition of where we are as a church. Some of you have been coming to Real Life for a while, and you've been with us since the junior high school out to the bus garage and then over to here. Some of you just recently joined us here at Real Life Church. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about kind of the state of the church, where we are. And I'm going to be preaching through that, but I want to make sure that each week I give you some information about what we're doing and what we're planning on doing. And we've got some great news coming up, and I want to be able to just share that with excitement for you. One of the things that I mentioned last week to this service, and I spoke about it at length in the early service, is the fact that here in a couple of weeks we're going to be going to 3 services on Sunday morning. Okay? Hold on. I'm just going to tell you, I used to play sports growing up, and if you introduce someone or something really great happens, the worst thing possible is the woo. It's good. That's awful. Okay? Now, how many of you believe that we serve a God that can do anything? Okay. If we believe that, we ought to celebrate like we serve a God who can do anything. So, I'm going to try this again. Hey, guys, in a couple weeks, we're going to be going to 3 services here at Real Life Church. Okay. That's better. All right, now here's what I want to do. We're going to start off. In the earlier service, I did this a little different, but I want everybody to pick up your connection card. Just pick it up. If you have it, pick it up. It's in your seat right next to you. Somebody took the time to put these in your chair. If there's not one in your chair and you're stronger than your neighbor, just take theirs. But if you have one of these, I want you to open it up because it's different than the ones you filled out before. Throughout the service today, if I hit a lull and it gets a little sleepy, I need you to fill everything out. All right? Everything. You say, Pastor Vince, I've been coming for a year. Do I have to fill it out again? Yes. Because of our growth, because of the growth that we've had, we basically crashed our database. We've had to put so many people in there, and we've reached this limit, and it's going, you can't put any more people in here. And so what we're going to do is we're switching our database. We want to get current information. So I need you to fill this out as thoroughly as you can. If you and your spouse have different email addresses, put both. And here's the kicker. Please write it legibly. Because if your email address is Purple Unicorn 247, and you don't spell that right, I don't want to know who's going to respond to me. Okay? So make sure you fill it out correctly. If you have kids that are here at Real Life Church and they attend Real Life Church, write their names down also so we can get all the families in there correctly so that you're getting the information in regards to the church. All right? Also on this card, you're going to notice something very different. Up in the top right-hand corner, it says attended. 8:40, 10 o'clock, or 11:20. Some of you are like, what? Where's 9:30? Where's 11? They are no more. Okay? We're going to be doing that this week and next week, and depending on how the cards come back, we're going to tell you next week when we're going to make this transition, whether it'll be the week after that or one more week. But I need you to do me a favor, and in this corner, in this checkout box today, I need you to let me know which service you're going to attend. Hold on. Some of you type A people were like, please let me check the box. Please let me check the box. Don't check it just yet. You're going to come back to it in a second, all right? Some of you was like, oh, snap, I already did it, huh? That was you. I know now. All right. So here's also what I want to tell you about. There's plenty of ways. Going into 3 services, it means we're going to have to be stretching. Thus, the title of the series over the next couple weeks. And stretching is a fantastic thing because it requires us to call out and step out of comfort zones. It calls us to be more than what we currently are, and we're excited about that. But for some people, they're like, well, I don't even know what to do here at Real Life Church. So real quickly, I'm going to give you some things that you can do, some ways that you can serve here at Real Life Church. First way is this weekend experience, all right? The weekend, the Sunday opportunities here at Real Life Church. Let me just go ahead and throw the list up here, all right? Greeting, parking, cafe. How many of you love our parkers out there in the parking lot? Those guys stand out there in the snow, in the rain, in the sleet, and whatever comes, they're out there, and they're nice, and you all haven't ran them over yet. So thank you so much for that. All right? Then we have sound tech, video, security. All of those areas are available on Sundays. We're going 3 different services. We're needing more people all the time. And then this area, the children's ministry. Check in, check out. The nursery, toddlers, pre-K, elementary age groups. We're going to need people in every area to be able to move to 3 services. People are like, oh, man, I want to do that. Here, listen. Let me ask you one question, and you guys answer it. How many of you right now know one person that needs Jesus in their life? Come on. Be honest. Now, if you look around in this service and in the 9:30 service, I can't fit them. I can't put them in here with you. And so we've got to take some steps to make room, to make space, so that these people hear about the gospel, because that is what we do. The Great Commission says, go ye therefore into all the world, preaching and teaching, making disciples. So we have 2 missions here at Real Life Church, is that's to reach one more, but then to make them disciples. And if I can't get them a seat, I can't do either one. And so I want to challenge you, church, this week to be thinking about that friend and then thinking about where they sit. All right? And I also need you to be thinking about making a commitment to drop into either that 8:40 service or the 11:20 service, because everybody's going to want to come to the 10 o'clock service. So make a commitment to drop into one of those services. Vince, I don't want to do 8:40. Good Lord. I mean, it's Sunday. Then come to the 11:20. I'm going to give you 20 extra. Some of you are stoked about the 11:20 because you're like, I'm late every week anyway. Woo! It's awesome. But even if you can do this for me, if you can make me a 3-month commitment and say, you know what, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to commit to 8:40 for 3 months, and then we're going to see how it goes. Because here's the reality, guys. Last year, you guys have heard me talk about this. At Easter last year, we had 1,000 people show up. We're expecting at least that plus 50%, 1,500 to 1,700 people is what I'm anticipating. I would love to be standing room only at the shed just so I can rub it in Willie Nelson's face. But whatever shows up, shows up. But I can't fit that many people in 2 services here at Real Life Church, so we got to make space. All right, we got to make space for your friends and family to come and meet Jesus. For the people that don't know him yet, for the people that we have yet to reach, we want to make space for them. I don't know of any other church in town that's doing 3 services, but I also know that I want this favor, this blessing that God has put on us at Real Life Church, I don't want it to go anywhere. This is kind of fun, isn't it, to walk in and there'll be new people every week and people getting saved and people being baptized. And I love that kind of feel, and I love church that way. Some of you say, oh, I'm new, Vince. I don't really know what's going on. Well, in November, we moved into this building averaging about 400 in attendance. From January 1 to right now this week, we're averaging 600 plus in attendance. In a 3-month window, God's done that. So, if God is doing that kind of work, this may hurt, but I'm going to say it. If God is doing that kind of work without you being involved, what is he capable of when you step in the ring? What can he do when you say, I'm in? Next week, we're going to talk about the financial state of the church, where we are as a church, because people are like, what do you do with the money? Where's it all go? Do you just send it to the preacher? Yeah. No, we don't do that. All right, here's something, I got some great news for you guys. This is encouraging. I've been waiting to share this with you, is that we have been blessed here at Real Life Church with every bit of the resource that we need to go ahead and build a new church building right here next door. Yeah, super, super excited about it. There's a catch, though. It's all still in your pockets, okay? And just think through that a little bit, all right? Offerings at the end of service. But we're going to be talking about that next week, about where the finances go, what happens to the money, the staff here at Real Life Church, and the important pieces of how we go forward to make sure that we're taking the steps God intends us to take. So those are the opportunities that are plugged in here at Real Life Church. I'm going to be talking about them throughout this sermon this morning. But again, don't check which service time you're going to do yet, because we're going to talk about it. Here, John chapter 5, Verse 5 is where we're going to be if you're going to turn your Bible there. But I want to talk about this idea of stretching, that God is wanting to move us from one place to another place, and it takes a little time to get flexible enough to get there. When we've had to be flexible, guys, real life has kind of built its whole world on that. We've had church in a pawn shop, we've had church in a school gym, in a bus garage, and now a horse barn. And God continues to bless us no matter where we go or what we do. But I also know in my own life that God calls me to stretch sometimes, to kind of get out of my own comfort zone. And there are some things that always come up. And the things that always come up are like this. The first thing that stops me or is the reason why I don't stretch is this. The first one is limitations. I don't know how many of you are limited, but I'm insanely limited. There are some things that I do okay. There are some things that I do horribly, and I have these limitations. And sometimes when God is calling me to stretch, I start going, well, God, I can't do that. God, I can't do that right there, what you're asking me to do. And he says, well, why not? And I was because that's beyond my limits. I've been told forever that I'm not enough. I've been told that I'm not smart enough, or I've been told that I'm not good looking enough, or I've been told that I'm just not, I don't have the right words, I don't speak right, I'm just not enough. And we start to believe those limits or those lids that are put on us as people, and we start to believe them at a very young age. Well, you're probably not going to do that when you get older. That's probably not what you're going to be. You know what? So don't even buy into that dream, or don't even buy into that thought that you could ever achieve that, because this is the lid that we're putting on you. And we begin to believe those things. You see it in athletes all the time. You see it in business all the time. You see it in people all the time. Well, this is just where I'm at. Well, do something different. I don't know how to do anything different. Well, that may be true. But a lack of knowledge doesn't mean that you're limited. It means you may have to go get more knowledge to be able to bust that limitation. Second thing is intimidation. Y'all ever been in over your head? Ever? Somebody said, Vince, I'm married. I don't know how to do this. I don't do it well. I don't know where to turn. And some days I just look at him and I go, what are you? And that's okay, because ladies, some days we look at you and go, we don't even know what to say. And that's okay, because intimidation is one thing where we go, somebody does it better than me, and because they do it better than me, why would you ever need me to do that? And so I'm kind of intimidated by a person that does it better. Or I'm intimidated by a situation that I've never been involved in before. And I can remember when we started having church over in Flippin in the pawn shop, and that first service showed up, and I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be great. And I think we had 37 people showed up for the first service, and I was like, woo, 37 people, oh, this is awesome. And then the next week, we lost some of them, and I thought, oh, no. I preached so good, people left. And it can be intimidating very quickly, where you're just going, God, I don't know if maybe I'm just not built for this, and the situations or circumstances will intimidate us. Third thing is expectations, where you have these limitations and then intimidation, but then expectation. Well, I tried it once, and it didn't turn out like I thought it would. Y'all ever been there? Husbands, you put together a swing set for your kids. You go, what's all this extra stuff? It didn't turn out quite like I thought it would. Or maybe it was a job that you were just stoked about, and it was the next step in my life. It's going to be great. I'm going to own the company in just a few years. And then the layoffs occurred, and the market crashed, and that home that you saved forever to buy is gone, and it's not what you expected. And so it makes us reserved to stretch, to step out, and to believe something greater than what we are. Well, I'm going to put these up here, and I want you to see, because all of these things are a lie, straight from the pit of hell. Because the Bible tells me that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So these limitations that I place on myself, sometimes I sit there and I start going, well, God, I can't do this. I have these insecurities. I have this stuff that I struggle with. And God says, no, Spence, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I created you to do exactly what you're doing and more if you'll just trust me with the result. But God, I want control of the result. He said, then you're the limitation. And that hurts to hear. But God, I don't think I can. There's too many people that do it so much better than me. And he says, then go learn from them. Go sit across the table and write down everything they say. Instead of seeing them as an intimidation, see them as a tool to get you to the next step. Well, God, they're going to think I'm ridiculous. Why would, and see, we start lying to ourselves. Expectations, you guys understand, I preached about this in marriage last week, the idea of expectations. And see, where stress truly exists is between expectations and reality. What you expect to happen in the reality, that gap in between, is where stress and frustration live. Well, I was expecting it to be here, but this is where it's at. I want my marriage to be here, but this is where it's at. I want my kids to be the president of the United States, and now they're president of the chess club, and I don't know if I'm excited about that or not. I really wanted a football player, and I got a chess player. Am I good with that? It's not what I expected. If that's you, be okay with the chess player. He's probably going to own a company or own a team that the guy playing football works for. But our expectations, we believe these things, and so we stop. We stop stretching outside what God calls us to stretch to. Before I pastored Real Life Church, before we started this church, the largest church that God had ever had me pastoring in was about 100, 120 people. And when we got to that number at Flippin, we were there when we started the church. We got there really quickly, and I got to 120, and I started looking around going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I get up and I preach, and I sit down, and people keep coming, but God, they keep coming. They keep coming. The worship is really good, and they keep coming. They love our children's program, and they keep coming, and I just don't know what to do. And God, for me, I don't know if this works this way for you, but sometimes God has to kind of shake me and go, will you stop it? Will you stop believing so much in you and start trusting that I am within you and can do all things through you if you'll just let me? And so many times we need to hear that as believers. And so I want to dive into this text today because one of the ways I think that we fall short in this stretching for Christ is in serving. And just setting ourselves aside and looking out for someone else. And I want to just share with you this passage. It's one of my favorite scriptures in all of the Bible, and one of the most heartbreaking scriptures ever written is found in this passage. So here we go, John chapter 5. I'm not going to read all of it until I get into unpacking the sermon, but it says, afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. And inside the city near the sheep gate, there was a pool, the pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. And there were crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, and they laid on the porches. And one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. And when Jesus saw him, and I'm going to stop right here at this verse when I end this verse. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, would you like to be well? Would you like to be well? Every time I read that and I get to that point, I'm thinking, that's kind of a dumb question, Jesus. I mean, you're Jesus. He's laying there sick. Why would you ask that question? So as I begin to pray through this today, I want to just talk about some of the things that Jesus did. Because, see, serving is not something that we do by nature. Some of you are like, I love people, but serving people isn't something that we do by nature. See, it's culturally, it's different for us. Culturally, our culture tells us that, hey, you need to look out for number one. You watch out for you, and as long as you watch out for you, then you're going to be fine. And everybody else, if they get burnt in the wake, then that's just what happens. I'm sorry. But you look out for you. And the Bible says, no. That's not how that works. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. You say, well, yeah, I believe that, but some of you don't realize how much you love yourself. And myself included in that. I love me some me, okay? I like me. I like my ideas. I think my food choices are better than everybody else's. I think everybody's plate should have little sectioned off quarters on it because that's how it's going to be in heaven. You just don't know it yet. And I think everybody should think like I think. Anybody with me on that? A few of you. The rest of you are like, no. I want people to think how I think, Vince, not how you think. Because we're selfish. Our culture teaches us to be selfish. We're intuitively selfish. You guys ever been around a toddler? Yeah. Mine! You need to share. What? Why would I share if I'm holding the toy? It makes no sense for me to give the toy away, Dad. That's not, what? It doesn't even make sense. Well, here's the thing. They have to learn that from somebody. Parents are like, no, that's not me. Yes, it is, because I'm turning into one of you. My dad, when I was growing up, don't mess with my tools. And I thought, as I got older, I thought, he's just a toddler trapped in a man's body. And then as I'm getting older, I realize I'm just a toddler trapped in a man's body. I go, no, don't touch that, that's mine. Don't mess with my computer. I know you want to play Minecraft, it's mine, but don't do it. Ladies, you know you're with me on this. How many of you freak out if somebody puts the dishes in a wrong cabinet? Yes. Where's the mixing bowl? I don't know, look where the bowls are. I'm looking where the bowls are, and it's not in here. The vein starts popping out in your head because we're selfish. We want it our way. Even if it's in little chunks, we want it our way. And you say, well, Vince, is that wrong? You can have your dishes wherever you want them. You don't want your kids to play with the tools, it's okay. But when it comes to serving people is where we run into a problem. Because the Bible specifically tells us to serve others. And so we learn this from Jesus. And in this passage, he gives us a great picture of this. John chapter 5, I already read that passage to you. Let's talk about the first thing that Jesus did. Here's the first thing that Jesus did. Now, let me give you some backstory. As Jesus rolls up on the pool of Bethesda, it was just that there was 5 covered porches, much like this stage with steps down into this big pool. And in this pool, there was this legend that when the water began to be troubled or when the water moved, the first person that got in the water was healed. And so there's people just kind of laying around watching the water. If it moves, I'm going. I'm going to jump in. When it moves, I'm going to jump in. And don't you know there was some guy with a pebble just throwing it in going, watch. That's what I was doing. So, man, somebody threw it in the rock. And so they're sitting there and they're waiting for the water, just waiting for something to happen. Sounds like a lot of churches today. They're just waiting, going, I hope the Lord shows up one of these days. And we never get in the water to do anything. And so often I want to sit here and I said, Jesus, teach me something from this passage, because I think that a lot of people in the world today are just like these people around the porches. They're blind. They have no vision for where their life is going. They have no direction on what they're supposed to do next. They have no hope that it'll ever get better. And with no vision and no direction and no hope, what do you got? Not much. And so we learn this lesson from Jesus here as he sees the need. See, that's the first thing that you and I have to do when we walk into a situation, we walk into a place where there are needs that happen. We ought to be seeing and noticing the need. But too often we don't notice the need because we keep our head down and we press forward and because we're taking care of our stuff. And we do see a need and something kind of messy is happening here. We do our best to kind of skirt around it because I don't want to get my hands dirty. I would ask, how many of you have lost friends and hang out with them? A lot of you would raise your hand and say, yeah, you bet. Some of you are like, no, I'm a Christian. I'm not supposed to have lost friends. I would say that's unbiblical, because Jesus hung out with lost people more than he did with church people, because they needed the message of hope. In fact, he said it. He said, it's not the well that need a physician, but the sick. They need this message. And so you've got to be able to see the need. And so many times, like I said, we stick around with our head down and we struggle with this because of our selfishness. The second thing that he did is he engaged. Verse 6, he says, when Jesus saw him and he knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, would you like to get well? Sometimes for you and I, all it takes is a question. Is there something I can help you with? What can I do? Are you okay? I don't want to ask that, Vince, because you know people. I mean, they're just going to give you their whole life story. And they're going to spill that on you if you say, would you like to talk? Oh. there are some needy people, right? I mean, that's what we think through. There was a guy that used to call my dad, and I used to love it. He's passed away now, but he used to call my dad about every other night. And his name was Bob Butts. Why is that funny? It was funny to me too, because when I'd answer the phone, he was very proper. Hello, Mr. Vincent. I'd say, hello, Mr. Butts. Is Roger there? I'd say, hold on. Hey, Dad! Mr. Butts is on the phone! I'd see my dad go. He's, hold on. Don't tell him. Because Bob just really needed somebody to talk to a lot. But now, later on, he became a great friend of my dad, and I had tremendous respect for him as I got older. And sometimes there's just needy people, though. And you go, I don't know, Vince, if I want to spend the time. But see, sometimes it really takes that. As a believer, you've got to set yourself and your agendas and your structure and your progress and something else aside to say, you know what? What can I do for you? How can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I encourage you? How can I lift you up? Because as the believers, that's what the Bible calls us to do. We're supposed to lift up and edify other believers in the church, and even those outside the church that don't even know Jesus. But do you stop and do you take the time? See, Vince, I don't know if I have the time. Then you've got to learn to make the time, because you make it for everything else. I do. Like I said, how many of you are routine people? You have your set routine. Like at night, I go to bed, I turn on the TV, I watch the news if I catch it, but then I watch Jimmy Fallon and I watch SportsCenter every night. And unless I just collapse and fall asleep during the news. But that's my plan. When I go to bed, I'm watching SportsCenter and I'm watching Jimmy Fallon. Some of you have a morning routine where you get up, you brush your teeth, you have your coffee. Some of you have your coffee first because nobody wants to deal with you if you haven't had your coffee. But you have your routines that you set in. The problem is we do that in life, and because of our routines, we miss. We miss. And what a shame for the people that this morning they're out there and they're struggling through life without Jesus because we won't engage. Because we won't just get in the way. Ask a simple question. Hey, would you like to go to church with me? You know what? Nobody's ever asked me to go anywhere with them. I'd be honored. Are you doing okay? Do you want to talk about it? I heard your marriage is struggling. Is there anything I can do? And it's tough for us because we like us. Man, my problems, Vince, are big enough. I don't know that I need to get involved in anybody else's stuff. I understand that's the temptation to just kind of pull back and skirt the issue. But here's the reality of what we deal with. Here's the part I told you. It's the most heartbreaking scripture in all of the Bible. Every time I read this, I pray, God, please, if I ever meet this man, help me to change his answer. So what happens is God not only sees the need and not only does he engage, but his heart broke. John chapter 5, verse 7, it says, verse 6 says, hey, would you like to be well? And then the man says, sir, I can't. I can't. Well, I know you can't walk. I said, no. I've got nobody. I've got no one. See, I sit here all day on these porches and the water moves and I just have to look at it move going, I'm so close. And I'm so close, but I can't get there. And I look over here, and this guy's family is taking him down, and this guy's friends showed up and took off work to take him down to the water. And I sit here every day for 38 years watching someone else go So yeah, I would love to be well, but I don't have anybody. I don't have a person that's going to pick me up when I'm down or help me when I need help. And it's because nobody cares. The psalmist said, David said it in the Old Testament. He said, "Oh, that someone would care for my soul." And this man says the same thing. It's in the New Testament. In front of Jesus, he's looking at the Creator and said, "I got nobody." Church, my heart breaks thinking for a second that we could be a church in this community and surrounding communities, and people outside the walls still say, "I got nobody that can show me hope. I've got no one that can show me vision or direction or where to go. I've got none of that." That's not on them, that's on us. A few weeks ago, I got a story. We were sitting at an event with the church, and we were with some leaders there. One of the teachers at one of our schools comes up to me and says, "Hey, I got to tell you this story. I got to tell you this story." I said, "What happened?" She said, "I was at school, and one of my students, every day he comes in and he sits there and he writes his homework out. And every day for this last week, he's wrote his Bible verse on the bottom of his homework. He just writes his Bible verse and he turns it in. He writes his Bible verse and he turns it in, and he writes his Bible verse and he turns it in." She said, "I took him to the library on Friday, and we went to the library, and he checked out a Bible because he doesn't have one, to take it home and to share it with his family." You know why he does that? It's because Matt Hoyer does children's church in the back. And although there are a million other things he could do, he engaged with a kid, and he got right here, and he told him that there was a Jesus that loves him more than anything in the world. And you know what that boy will never, ever have the opportunity to say? "I have no one." He never gets to say those words because Matt saw a need and engaged in it. His heart broke for those kids. And I told Matt this, and he said, "Sometimes you just don't know. They're bouncing off the walls, and they're having a great time, but you don't know if the message is getting across." That child, that family, they know now.